The air was still that evening, heavy with the scent of pine and dust. A dirt road wound its way through the forest, silent except for the soft hum of crickets and the distant whisper of wind against the trees. It was there, in that forgotten stretch of wilderness, that fate wrote an unexpected story. A story about a hardened biker and a little boy whose heart was bigger than the pain the world had given him. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, then pause for a moment, hit like, share, and subscribe, because sometimes one small act of compassion can change hundreds of lives. The boy's name was Eli, only 7 years old, barefoot, and covered in the kind of dirt that sticks to skin after a long day of wandering. He lived nearby in a run-down trailer with his mother, who worked double shifts at the diner. That day, Eli had gone deeper into the woods than he ever had before, chasing a frog, chasing curiosity, maybe chasing a quiet escape from the shouting that too often filled his home. As he pushed through the brush, he froze. There, beside an old pine tree, was a sight that made his small heart pound. A man, huge, covered in tattoos, wearing a black leather vest with a red skull and wings that read Hell's Angels, was chained to the tree. His head hung low, his breathing heavy. A motorcycle stood nearby, dusty but gleaming in the setting sun. At first, Eli thought the man was dead, but when the biker moved, letting out a low groan, Eli stumbled back. He wanted to run. Every story he'd ever heard about bikers said they were dangerous, violent men who scared entire towns. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the pain in the man's voice, or the way his hands trembled against the chains. The man's name was Cole, though Eli wouldn't know that yet. Cole had been ambushed, betrayed by people he once called brothers, rival bikers who had stolen his bike, beaten him, and chained him there to die under the scorching sun. For hours he had. Tried to break free, his arms bleeding from the metal, his throat dry. No one came, not a single soul, until that little boy. Eli stepped closer, his small hands gripping the chain. "Mister, are you okay?" he whispered, voice shaking. Cole opened his eyes. Steel gray, tired but still burning with something fierce. He managed a weak smile, one that seemed out of place on a face built for toughness. "You shouldn't be here, kid," he rasped. "Go home." But Eli didn't. He tugged at the chains, his arms trembling. "I'll help you," he said. His voice was soft but stubborn. The kind of stubborn that only comes from a child who still believes that doing good always matters. For nearly an hour, Eli worked. He found a rock to wedge under the lock, used sticks to pry the links, his little hands turning red. When that failed, he ran all the way home, 2 miles barefoot, and returned with a rusty old hammer from his mother's toolbox. By the time the chains finally gave way, the sun was sinking behind the trees. Cole collapsed to the ground, too weak to stand. Eli ran to fetch water from a nearby creek, cupping it in his hands, spilling most of it but not giving up. He poured it over the biker's cracked lips. It wasn't much, but to Cole, it felt like mercy. Hours later, when the roar of distant motorcycles echoed through the forest, Eli's heart jumped. He thought more bad men were coming, but it was Cole's club. The Hell's Angels had come looking for him, furious and desperate. When they found their leader, alive, freed by a child, they stood silent, eyes wide. These were men who had seen wars, prisons, and loss, but they had never seen anything like that. Cole told them what happened, his voice rough with emotion. He pointed to the boy standing there, dirt on his face, eyes too innocent for the world that surrounded him. "This kid," Cole said, "saved my life." Word spread fast. The next weekend, 2,000 bikers, 2,000, rode into that small town. Engines thundered like a storm. People came out of their homes in fear, thinking trouble had arrived. But it wasn't trouble, it was gratitude. They gathered at the little trailer park where Eli lived. His mother stepped outside, terrified at first, until Cole walked up, cleaned up and standing tall, carrying a brand new bicycle in his hands. "For the bravest kid I ever met," he said. Tears filled her eyes as she watched her son's face light up. The bikers surrounded them, some with tattoos, some with rough hands that had seen too many fights. Yet they stood quietly like an army of protectors. They raised money for Eli's family, repaired their broken home, and promised that no harm would ever touch them again. Cole changed that day too. The man who had once believed in nothing but revenge and loyalty to his club now believed in something bigger, redemption. He left behind the violence, dedicating his life to helping kids like Eli, kids who grew up fighting battles no one saw. Years later, at a biker rally attended by thousands, Cole shared the story on stage. He didn't talk about guns or engines or the wildlife of the road. He talked about a little boy who refused to walk away. "That kid," he said, voice breaking, "showed me that angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they have dirty hands and scraped knees." The crowd went silent. Tough men wiped tears from their eyes. That night, they rode not in chaos, but in peace. Engines roaring under the stars, carrying a message the world too often forgets. Kindness is the loudest power there is. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that compassion still exists in this world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your small gesture helps us keep spreading stories that restore faith in humanity. Special request: comment below with "Angels still exist" if you believe that even the smallest kindness can save a life. Because sometimes the most powerful heroes are the ones nobody expects.